Morning. I think we could stop the recording.
Yeah, I'm jumping in to grab the code as we speak.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the weekly security collab space meeting. Today is July 21st. Got a couple things on our agenda today. Unfortunately, Rudd won't be joining us. He's out sick today, so I'm stepping in. I kind of was talking about this a little bit before. Ulysses, myself, Rudd, and Raphael, we meet every week. And last week we thought of some good things for this agenda, of which I think I remembered only two of them. So Ulysses, this rings a bell, that's great. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the working group meeting cadence, and to see if maybe we can do a better job at making these meetings sort of more productive. We're thinking about adopting something that an approach that the CPC takes, so we can talk about that today. And then we've got one topic for the private session. So for the working group meeting cadence, like these meetings are, um, we currently spend a lot of time going through documents, uh, and we kind of treat them as half working session, half other security topic session. That's probably not the most efficient way to go about it. One of the approaches that the CPC has taken is that they have alternating meetings where they have their regular meeting, which is open for topics, prioritizing things, and then they have working sessions. And the working sessions are, dedicated to completing a thing or reviewing a thing, and attendance there is more voluntary. So if you're interested in working on that thing, then you go to that meeting. So a good example of how we might adopt that is, we've been sort of doing these iterations on the secure release guide, for example. We would say, okay, for the next working session, we're going to work on the secure release guide. And then in that meeting, it's like an in-depth session. We go through comments, we add, we collaboratively edit the document, but it's really dedicated to that. And the folks that are attending that meeting, they want to do that work, right? And then we would still have the general meeting where we could talk about other topics, raise issues and things like that. So I wanted to float that to folks and see what people thought. I see Steve is nodding in silent agreement. Ulysses has his hand raised. Yes, Ulysses.
Honestly, I like the idea. I mean, I think it makes sense to like having this split a little bit because I think maybe not the same attendance will go to both. So having that clear will give us a lot of opportunity. Also having like this spin between both, right? Because 1 week is going to be like the regular meeting and the other one is like CPC. Give us like 2 weeks, for example, for the regular meetings to have like a more accurate agenda and stuff like that. So maybe we can, condensate discussions a little bit on that space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of folks will be like happy with that idea. I mean, because for the ones who go to all the meetings, it's not going to be a big change. But for the ones that only want to go to the, more regular schedule agenda and see what's going on, I think it's going to be more time saver because it's going to be like once every 2 weeks. So it's more manageable and we might see more new faces around, I think.
Yeah. Any other comments or feedback?
Ben, I think I gave you the comment a while ago. I think just publishing the agenda in advance is helpful too.
Yeah.
Especially if we're going to move to that type of cadence too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Chris, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I guess it just echoing the same comment, and I guess it's not even really about the question that you're asking about this adding a working session, alternating, but yeah, the having like a place to put things on the agenda in advance is good. Sometimes like there's things folks want to talk about, but there's already kind of like what folks had in mind for what we would be talking about that day, and then it's um, on the one side, you feel like, well, I don't want to talk about, spend too much time on this because there's all this other stuff that was already planned. And the other folks, that had planned that stuff are, on the opposite side where they're like, no, 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 go ahead. But then they don't accomplish the thing that they were trying to accomplish. So yeah, I
Yeah.
do think it's not like a super common problem. It's not, I don't want to overstate. But yeah, having like the agenda, if we could, maybe we could get like um, I guess there's two things we could do for that, right? One is like, okay, if this is our weekly notes document, we could just have above, when we're looking at July 21st, if you always have
Yeah.
like the next meeting up there already, that just gives place of people a place to put that stuff. And it could be as simple as that, right? We don't need to like overthink that part. On the question of the working sessions alternating, yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I'm trying to think, is there like things that, I will also note that even though the CPC working sessions alternate sometimes, even at the working session, regular sort of non-working session CPC stuff comes up just because it's timely. And, if you have folks there that, you can have a productive discussion with, that can still happen sort of organically too. And I imagine you might have some of that if you switch to this as well. Ultimately, I don't think there's, I think it's just different. I don't think one's necessarily better or worse. But if you need to make time for, if it is like, if folks feel like we're missing that, hey, we're going to do a working session, we're going to go through this document kind of line by line, let's make comments, and we feel like we're not making enough time for that at these meetings, then that makes sense. On the flip side, if it's the same number of meeting hours, right, and it's still an hour every week, and I guess my question is like, do we feel like that there wasn't enough time overall? Because if that's the case, then I don't know that just drawing that line about what's a working session and what's not is going to solve that if you just like need literally just more time to go over things. That makes sense. I don't know.
So the way I was thinking about this is not so much that there wasn't enough time, it was more of setting better expectations about what was going to be done in the meeting and, you know, ensuring that, and there are other ways to accomplish this, right? I think one of the things we're reacting to is making sure that like when we're spending time going line by line in the document, the folks that are present are, that's what they want to do.
Right.
Right. Which isn't always the case, right? Like we can be honest and practical here. Another way is that like we split up this existing meeting and like the first half hour is general topics and things that are timely. And then the last half hour is like the working session. That's another way to do it. I don't know if that's enough time, but that's also a totally reasonable approach.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And that's why I kind of go to like, well, is this more of an agenda thing rather than, oh, we need to split this up? Because the other thing that I think about is how like with the obviously this group and the CPC is different, and I don't want to be reductive and paint with too wet of a brush here. But like the CPC working sessions often are, sometimes they don't happen, whether that's because you don't have people or because there's just not something that folks have agreed to do for that week. And maybe this group won't have those same challenges if there's kind of always something that's able to fit into the working session spot. But I wonder if it might make more sense, just an idea, to not necessarily say this week is always alternating between the regular one and the working session one, but rather go, okay, next week we want to work on this thing, so that's going to be a working session, right? And then it becomes more of an agenda type thing rather than every 2 weeks is a working session and every 2 weeks is a regular meeting or whatever we're calling that.
Yeah, I think I like that approach. I think that's a good place to start, so we don't overcomplicate things. So we'll just say that, you know, let me write this down. Rather than alternating meetings, we can define a future meeting as a session dedicated to a topic or document. Something like that, right?
Yeah. And I think we've done that before. I can recall, many times where we have been in here and just, going over things and asking questions and comments and collaborating and stuff. So, anyway, that's not to say that we shouldn't or can't do the alternating thing, but just throwing it out there as a alternative. And I think you've kind of hopefully, if you did that, sort of solve that problem of people knowing in advance, and then if they're not interested in the topic or whatever, like Ulysses was saying, then maybe they skip that one and come to the next one. That's the more general or something like that.
Yeah, I like this idea. It also is simpler, and we can always make things more complicated in the future if we need it. But this at least doesn't complicate our calendars, which is always a good thing. All right. So I'll work on publishing the agenda in advance and making sure that all folks have access to that and can see where it is. We might just do like this future topics thing, but I'll just give that a little bit more thought. Outside of that, Ulysses, do you remember any other topics that we had thought about for discussion today? Sorry, Chris. Before I
Go
move
ahead,
on, yeah,
Chris.
Chris.
Well, I did literally just put my hand up, so if you wanted to, I don't need to interject. But I guess since I'm talking already, and you were talking about how best to do this,
Yeah.
in the what works. I mean, I think it works pretty well. I don't know if it's the best thing, but it works quite well. Is just they'll just put, like, in the OpenSSF, we'll just put the next meeting will already be there. So July,
Yeah.
28th. And you'll put that it's the next meeting, because so people don't accidentally add a topic to the one that they didn't mean to. And then that's
Mhm.
available in advance, and then people can just put stuff in there. They can also see what other folks have put on there, and it's simple. You know where to go every time. You're not relying on like a broken GitHub action to create a new issue, which has
No comments.
sometimes been an issue in the past in some organizations.
Yeah.
We shall not name all of them. Common problem. And it just, if the thing's not there, somebody can add it. And anyway, it's just a really low entry, a low bar of entry to just start doing that.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Ulysses.
I think I remember one topic that was at least the most interesting for me from the last discussion. That was like, if we want to, I think it's for the public version of this meeting, so should be fine. I think we were discussing like to build like a small group of people that can help other projects within the foundation to, do a better security triage and stuff like that, like building a small safe space so we all can share, concerns, CVs, stuff that we don't know how to handle and stuff like that. So we can have like a space where we can actually learn from each other and provide some support when we have like resources on that. So that might be a good thing, yeah, and worth discussing, but not sure if we want to keep this for the public part or for the private part. But yeah, that was a very interesting idea.
Yep, Chris.
No, I like that idea. I just wanted to share anecdotally that I have directed, at least on a few occasions, folks that have reached out asking that exact question. Hey, like, this project needs help with these security things, and what would be a good thing? And I've directed them to come here. And in zero cases has anybody out of that ever showed up. And I don't know why that is. But it would be, yeah, I wish I knew why that was, but nobody ever follows up on, I don't know if they don't need the help, or decided they didn't want the help, or decided that things were too sensitive, or they didn't like the time or day, but I've never heard anything back, and the folks just never showed up here. Robin?
Yeah, I remember following up on the security compliance guidelines, and we were trying to decide whether we picked like the top 5, critical impact projects, or do we pick one line item or two that's most critical from an issue perspective that they execute. So and then we go to where they are instead of having them come to us is probably something we need to still work on. So prioritizing the rollout. Part of that was the audit as well, which I think, as we pointed out, we probably have some gaps, and then how do we complete that? So.
I mean, at least for the first thing that Ulysses brought up here about kind of helping OpenJS projects when they've got security questions. I think there's probably two things to tackle there. One is, yes, where do they go, right? Is it a Slack channel? Is it a Discord? Is it something else? And that is it a mailing list? And then the other is how do we let them know that that's what the appropriate action is, right? So yeah, letting them know could be in our CPC guidelines. It could be we communicate to them probably all of these things. And then, it sounds like it needs to be just an area where they can reach out to a select group and ask questions safely. So there's a variety of ways to do that. I mean, I guess, are there examples elsewhere? Chris, I don't know if there's a similar thing that OpenSSF does. And if not, we can think of something new.
A good question.
I don't know of anything. OpenSSF doesn't really have many software projects. And the software projects they do have are like related to their initiatives. So it's more of like a policy foundation than a
Yeah.
project foundation. So I think we would have to find another exemplar or make up something new.
Yeah, and we've had the town hall meetings, but we'll do town hall meetings with maintainers, we'll do emails, we'll do Slack, and we'll still miss some.
Mhm.
Whenever you've sat in a centralized role in a company, it's just hard to get people to come to you again. So I think
Yeah.
we need to go to where they are, whether it's their TSC meetings, their Discord or Slack channels, to really reach those folks.
Yeah, we have talked, this has been covered to some extent in, I'm not a member or participant in all of the OpenSSF working groups, but I have been in a few. It does come up in the vulnerability disclosures working group, but we have the same, it's sort of the same thing there. It's like we can provide, these channels, and say, okay, people are available to help, and depending on what your ecosystem is, we direct these places, but people have to like take that step to reach out and in one way or another. And I get what Robin is saying, but like about going to where they are, but like we don't know where to go. There's too many places to go. And so where do you go? And I don't have the answer there, and you don't know how you'll be received depending on where you go and who needs help or who doesn't need help. And there's like and obviously it's security thing, so there's a lot of sensitivity around it. Um, like, what comes to mind is a really big project. It's a JavaScript project. It's not a foundation project, but it's really important in the ecosystem. But they are very, you know, closed. They're a closed, I don't know. Um, they sort of isolate themselves, particularly from a security perspective, probably because the actual project is security related and is meant to help people with security. But like there's a problem, like they silently patch their issues without disclosing and stuff like that. And I did have somebody that was working with them and then was trying to reach out to me to get to work with them and then help them out and get more people to help out, but like they don't want to do it. for and I don't know why. So yeah, that's that category of challenges, I think, is the biggest thing. So we can create, something, hey, submit this form or something. I don't know. I can imagine different ways of engagement. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to take that step to engage, I don't know. I don't have. It'd be great if we had some good ideas of how to solve for that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, maybe if we build it, they will come, right? I mean, it's one of those things where we need to have the spot for them to go. And if it's an empty room that no one ever chats in, then I think that's either we can try to put more resources towards reaching out, or maybe it's just an approach that doesn't work, right?
I
But
mean,
I'm
I
willing
think
to
of
try.
the
Yeah.
yeah. I think what just popped into my head was like the GitHub thing, right? The GitHub security, I forget what it's called, the security project, but like Express jumped in. I don't know if Jordan jumped in some way or other projects. But that seems to get some traction, right? And that's
Mhm.
helping people out with security. It's quite thorough, right? It's like training and it's like several other things. Obviously, they've dedicated a lot of resources to be able to do that and make that an attractive um, thing for projects, right? I don't know that we would be able to do something on that scale, but maybe there's some ideas in there of, hey, what are the things that in there that were really attractive to project maintainers, and are any of those things somewhere that we might be able to um, replicate without too much
They are paying
effort?
folks to participate.
That
But
is
what's our
probably a
carrot? What's
large
our carrot?
incentivizer.
Yeah, totally. What's our carrot,
Okay, well, food for thought, I think. Yeah, I mean, like as a minimum here, we could think about like, would we want a mailing list? You just what's the one thing that we can do to start this, um, and see where it goes. Yep, Chris, I see your hands raised again.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question, but I just was curious because I think Ulysses brought this up. Ulysses, do you know of are there like projects or even a single project that like you were thinking of, or that have asked for this, or that would benefit from this like directly? Um,
I mean, Express is cheating because we already are here. So, but yeah, I think maybe
like, has
Mocha.
anybody
I
reached
think
out to you about like, hey, where can we get help with these security
not yet. I
triaging
mean,
issues?
nobody yet reached on to me directly saying like that. But also maybe I didn't offer that directly to the people. Like, if you're having any problem, just call me.
Right.
So maybe people. I mean, I know for sure that the people have this issue because we're talking with other maintainers outside of the foundation. They have this problem. So I strongly believe that the rest of the community has a very similar problems. When you start to talk about CVEs and triage and stuff like that, half of the people are like, yeah, I wish I know more about this. So yeah, probably if we build a small network, of people that we have a good direct contact at the beginning, might be not a super empty room at the beginning, and we can have like just 4 or 5 folks who want to help us understand what's going on their project and if they need help or not. Also, it's a good chance for us to introduce the CNA properly and explain about CVEs. Not all the project has the same surface of impact, right? It's not the same like Node.js compared to a test framework, in the sense that test framework was different because people don't use that in production, just for development, right? So not all the projects within the foundation are the same. So that also makes our surface a little bit more complicated. But there are a lot of resources, for example, that we can share from projects that have been successfully. And that's one of the things that we discussed in last meeting. For example, in Express, we have this incident response plan, which is kind of okay because we are like multiple maintainers. So the idea is to have a plan on how to deal with, potential security stuff. And I think a lot of projects doesn't have this, but maybe using this as a template, and we can just, share with others, or just go to the project and say like, look, you don't have this process documented. we do something like this. What about this in your side? And then start the conversation with them, trying to give them something, because I think the way of call them in might be a little bit more complex than, try to anticipate and be proactive on giving them stuff and then try to bring them to the discussions and the meetings will be like, I don't know, a super different way to approach them and a lot of work for us, but it might be more productive. I don't know. Just thinking as an alternative way to build this more stronger relationship with the security teams on the projects.
I'm just wondering, yeah, how best to manifest this. Like, oh, like the security help hotline, or something. Or do
Well,
you have like a landing page that's like, hey, do you need help with security things? And here's, I don't know. Is anonymous communication important? Like, do people want help but not reveal information about their project, or I don't know. I'm really trying to think, like, put myself in the maintainer's shoes of like what they would do, what would be helpful, what would they be looking for.
I think we have an example of that, Chris, that Ulysses mentioned, which was the CVE things. And so we've got this new capability. Projects may not know about it. Projects may not know how to interact with it. So maybe we use that as a specific example to try and tease out what the best way is to have this interaction.
So I always, not always, but I sometimes recall this issue in one of the OpenSSF in the TAC repo, the OpenSSF, where a maintainer was talking about the problems that they have, and it's really about like they have very little time for things beyond their maintainer responsibilities. They tend to silo in their own projects, broadly unaware of OpenSSF's existence, very little time to dig through information. Um, and then this objective session about meet maintainers where they are, like Robin said. Ensure they achieve understanding in as little time as possible. Pain point solution focused way. Proactive ongoing engagement with their maintainers and their projects. Dedicated landing page specifically aimed at maintainers. Yeah.
All right, so I think we should probably move into the private session to discuss this one. But I think for this one, sounds like a good working group topic. Maybe for next week? I don't know. Could add it to this future agenda item.
Hang on, was I on mute for the last?
No, we heard you.
Yeah. We'll have a smaller group next week with vacations too, so.
Yeah, Chris, I captured the TAC issue you mentioned here. It's pretty long. I just didn't want to review it in this meeting.
Mhm.
No, yeah, but then I was talking about the issue. Was I on mute that whole time?
No, we heard you.
No,
Did I miss
okay.
something?
Okay, I just saw I was on mute and I didn't remember pressing mute.
No,
I was
no,
like,
we
was
got
everybody
you.
just
Yeah,
quiet that whole time while I was
Yeah.
talking, and I didn't notice that nobody heard me. All right, cool. I realize it's like an overly broad thing that we're not going to be able to cover, but it's just I'm now all of these synapses are firing in my head about this particular area and general problem, and then there's more specific security problem
Yeah.
helping projects. But yeah,
I like this idea of maybe using the CNA rollout as a real world example and something to focus on. But we can talk about that more. Okay. Anything else for the public session? Okay. Great. All right. Thanks, folks. Robin, can you do the honors of stopping the recording?